Hey guys, welcome to Tuesday at Two Line Speedway. Running late tonight. I apologize. Life is kind of got in the way a little bit. Had a board meeting, podcast, you name it. It all kind of happened tonight. So it was just one of those unfortunate scheduling issues. So hope you're doing well this Tuesday. What do we tackle today? Guess there's a lot to talk about in the slot car world, as always. A bunch of things in the chat, especially since I gave you guys an extra 37 minutes to chat. So the usual suspects are here: Dusty, Daryl, Steve, Chris, DeFingers, John Albright, Gary Dunmore, DNA, welcome. John Tucci, Curvy, Frankie. So shout out to Frankie. Frankie sent me a couple pieces of track so that we can try option B from Saturday. So thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, thanks. So I see it should be here on Thursday, I think. So what else do we have? Who else is in? Daryl, I had to turn the head of my driver so I could see if he was going to lap me. I hear my brother had a good race day on Saturday at Steve's track. I hate that I missed it. Steve, that's funny. Hey, Eric Tucker, welcome. But yeah, guys, sorry I'm late. I know I probably missed out. A few people missed out on the live stream because of running late tonight. But let's jump right in. Saturday, I put out a video talking about two lines going to 4 lanes, and so you can see the track behind me. It was 4 lanes last week, but this week I've had a chance to run a couple laps. Not a whole lot, but I've been trying to get things settled. I built a couple of driver stations, and I've got race coordinator back up and running, and so I'm able to do lap timing, round robin style, like we do at Cincy Slots and at Steve's and Bernie's track and other places we've raced at Butch's track. Everybody seems to run round robin or heat-based round robins where everybody gets the same amount of time on each lap in a rotation. Right now, I've got it set up that you rotate from inside lane to outside lane. So it's a 4-lane track. So if anybody has any pointers about how that rotation should be, I don't know if it should be lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, lane 4, or if the rotation should be like lane 1, lane 3, lane 2, lane 4. I don't know. What are your thoughts? The colors from inside to out are yellow, red, white, and blue. And I still need to do some track painting. Garth, after last week's live stream, Garth sent me a message where he does this arrow thing that's 2 colors. And I really liked that. He said he prints these stickers that it's an arrow, so it tells you what direction the car should be going, and then what color lane is left, what color lane's right. And I like that. So for 4 lanes, you'd have a sticker on each piece of track in both lanes or in both track sections. I kind of like that because then I'm not painting a line all over everything. On the last track, I only painted the straights, and I was going to do the same thing with this track, but with 4 lanes, the color does kind of change the look of the track. And so Garth sent that. I probably will go that route. So we'll play around with it and see. Caveman, all the chickens are waiting in the coop. Clifton, hey man, thanks for being here. Slot Car Wild Man, what's going on? I apologize for being late. So yeah. I'm looking for my kazoo. So yeah, guys, anybody have any thoughts? Hey, Danny, welcome. Good to have you. Looks better with the long straight underneath for marshalling. Chris, thanks for pointing that out. That is the change that I made from last week to this week. I made that change right after the live stream. I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Everybody came to the consensus that was the right thing to do, and visually, it was the right thing to do. And maybe I'll throw the other camera up, my phone, and we'll tackle that maybe. Ooh, I don't have my tripod for it. It's out in my car. So, but yeah, we can do kind of a walkthrough. I did put an Instagram video out there, kind of walking through the track the way it is. I'm right at about 57 feet. And I'll point out, I don't love this section. Now, I've gotten used to it. I've done a few laps, and I've gotten to where I can drive it pretty well. I'm at a point where I could probably bump the voltage up a little bit because I better understand how to get through those turns a little better. So right now I'm running the track at 12 volts. 13 might be the sweet spot. I will say that the cars feel a little slow in the straight at 12 volts, but get through the turns pretty good at 12 volts with not a lot of deslotting. So, again, it goes back to what John Albright always says, tune your car for 14, and they're a pleasure to drive at 12. And that's what I'm finding is that they really I did laps for about an hour last night, and I don't remember coming out of the slot. And I ran a simulated race where I raced all 4 lanes at 3-minute races, just testing the accuracy of Race Coordinator. Race Coordinator only messed up once, and it was in the white lane, so I think I may need to adjust the sensitivity a little bit of the webcam just to make sure that it's picking up the cars just fine. It had a fake lap in the white lane, which kind of caused an issue with So anyway, kind of give you an idea what kind of speeds, running about 5.5 seconds to 6 seconds, depending on what kind of car you're running. The number of laps, 3-minute races over 4 lanes. I think I had 107 laps. So you're right around 26, 27 laps in a 3-minute race. So I like that lap count. I think the timing is good. I could jump to 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes. We run 3.5 minutes at Bruce's, which is on that track for analog. It's a great time. But with 4 lanes, I don't know that we need to go 3.5. But at Butch's, we do 5-minute heats, stints. So I don't know. It depends. I guess it would depend on how many people show up to race if I host a race night. So if I host a race night and I've got 12 people, then the shorter races make sense. But if I only have 6 people, then I think the longer races probably make more sense. So, Greg, you do not like in-car cam views on a slot car track? Do you think there will be a time when cameras will be installed in the car's cockpit and we drive through VR? I don't know about driving through VR. I think that it might make for some cool footage, but honestly, slot cars are so fast that the scenery goes by so quick that I'm not sure that sometimes it's great footage unless you do some slow-mo stuff like what Raul does. He does an awesome job shooting track footage. There's a lot of other people that have some really great track footage. Track footage is not my forte. Most of my track footage is me driving with my right hand and my phone in the left, and I'm chasing the car. So sometimes that's not great footage, but my track is so wide, it's hard to get a good wide shot from in the middle back here. So that's kind of how I work. Would bet the approach to the 90 is easier too. Yes, the approach to the 90 with the bridge over the straightaway is much easier. Gosh, let me see if I can bring some of this up. I have gone through since Saturday's video where I had option A was what we have right now. Option B was what I was looking at. I have done probably 20 iterations of that with different curves and different shapes, and it all requires about the same track pieces. So that's one of the things that I find interesting, that no matter how I shape it's all about the same distance. It might be 6 inches longer or 6 inches shorter, but for the most part, no matter how you put those curves, I'm not gaining a bunch of space. Ultimately, this is a modified figure 8 layout. There's no way of getting around that. I know that I could change my whole philosophy and move that straight to the edge of the table and build a flat track around that. There are some options with some loops over top of itself, and that may eventually be where we go to be able to get closer to a 70 to 75 foot lane length, which is really where I would like to get if I can. You start introducing things to the track that really make it complicated. Lots of short straights, lots of sharp turns, lots of things that really upset the car. It's not that I don't want a technical track. I think I wanted a little more technical in this iteration of the track, but I still want it to flow well, right? So, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Then alternating rotation is the most common people are used to. So Greg, I'm catching up on that. So how do you think that should go with 4 lanes? Like, where should you start? If lane 1 is your innermost lane, and then your outside lane, which I'm going to call the garbage lane because it's definitely 2 to 3 tenths slower. So what should that rotation look like? So you're not rotating straight through from station 1, 2, 3, 4. So is it 1, 3, 2, 4? Is it 1, 4, 2, 3? You only have 4 lanes, but like, what would be the standard if there's a standard out there? Because that's what I really wanted to follow. So I've seen the vids, but it's outside the car. Okay, you're still talking about in-car cameras. Gotcha. John Albright, a good handling car tuned at 14 will always allow you to push harder at 12. Yeah, the Group C cars feel really slow at 12 volts down the long straight. And it could be gearing. I picked up some gears that I'm going to play with. So I've got some different pinions, and I've got a couple different crown gears that I'm messing with the Group C cars. So we'll see what kind of impact the gearing does, if that changes it for me. So I don't know. So Thomas, welcome. Good to have you. Let's see. Johnny Pro, the speeds aren't 1/32 scale. I know. So, yeah, the scale speeds, you're talking like 200 and 300 mile an hour. And I know that's not realistic speeds. But we do race. I did notice that the track at Butch's, he has installed a voltmeter at the track, and it was at 13 volts. I think 13.1 all night last week when we raced on Thursday. And I don't know if that's 14 at the power supply and 13 at the rails by the time it gets there. So I'd really like to put a voltmeter on the rails on my track to see what kind of voltage drop I have from the power supply through that contraption box that I've built. So I'd be curious. Vin, am I the only guy running 10.5 volts? Well, I mean, I think that it's all going to depend on your layout, right? If you don't have a big long straight, then and you're a lot of R1 turns, then 10.5 volts is probably 10 to 11 volts is probably the right voltage for you. And then you've got Gary who runs 18 volts on everything. And then yeah, that's a good question. Are you running magnets? Yes, it does, Kirby. Tad, holy moly, look at that fat slot car track. Yeah, that's the thing with when you go Carrera, it is actually 23.5 inches with borders. So you're just shy of 2 feet wide. So yeah, but we could run 124. Sasha runs at 14.5. You guys are running magnets though, DNA, right? Yep, I could see that. Yeah, Sasha does a great job driving. Yeah, Dusty's. That's funny. His phone is full of options. I've sent all kinds of pictures of track layout options for us to consider. But I really want Dusty to come over and run some laps at some point. So hopefully that happens sometime soon. Johnny Pro is waiting on his Carrera slot order. Nice. Yeah, Wild Man. The overpass does look good going over the straight. It was the right move. Did I see George in the house? Hey, Area 51. Good to have you, George. Hope you're doing well, man. Let's see. Curvy flow is important. It needs to have technical and flat out speed areas to keep it interesting. I feel like even though this lane length is shorter, that it does have some interest. Like, I don't find myself getting bored with it. I wish it was a little longer, but I can't really tell you where I would want that, if that makes sense. I like the fact that you can kind of clip off some laps pretty quick. 5.5 second laps, 6 second laps. Every minute you're getting quite a few laps in, but I really like. I think I'm close, is what I'm getting at. There's some changes that I'm going to make once I get Frankie's 330 track pieces in. Then there's about 6 different versions of this track that I can make that add some, I think, really good flow. And so we'll share all those. So Greg, in on 1, 3, 4, 2, out. Okay. I like that. That's easy enough to change the order in Race Coordinator. So 1, 3, 4, 2. I like it. And that's what I'll do upon Greg's recommendation. So question, Greg, that the track at Cloverleaf that the NSR Nationals are going to be on next week after, is that a 4-lane track? And is that how that track will rotate? Just curious. As far as lane rotation, always drink always drink the best wine first. Hey, that's what, they always drink the best wine first. But yeah. Your software should pick the rotation when set up for round robin. So the software picks the rotation based on how I put the lanes in. So I put the lanes in 1, 2, 3, 4, and that was the rotation, both tests that I did last night. So I would have to change how each of them are in Race Coordinator, which is super easy to do. Take me 30 seconds to do that. But But the software, it doesn't really have a way in the software for you to pick the lane rotation, at least not that I've found. I'll explore that though, John. I'm using Race Coordinator because I can use a webcam to do the timing, and you can only do that in PC lap counter and Race Coordinator. And I need to look at PC lap counter. I liked Race Coordinator from the beginning. I thought it was super easy to use. I would love to jump to Lapmaster, but Lapmaster wants to use dead strips for timing, and it's not really made. It's made for a wood track. It's not really made for a plastic track because it would be difficult to put dead strips in a plastic track. And I know that you could, but it's not as easy. So that's what we would be run at commercial track. That is also like Butch's rotation on a 4-lane. Cloverleaf store track does a straight rotation 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks, Greg. Put Rollo 50K motor in it and they will fly. Johnny Pro, it would put a hole in my wall too, and I've got 12-inch thick stone walls. So pull chips out at hat for rotation. There you go. That's always DeFingers. That's always a. Hey Dana, thanks for coming. Glad you're here. Rotation still needed on a track that has lane change capabilities. So Caveman, no lane rotation. If we're running digital, there's no such thing as lane changing. It's controllers would be numbered, and you'd be digital controllers. So yeah, when we run digital, it doesn't really matter. When we run analog, it does, because when we run analog, you race different on digital. You have a start and a finish with digital, and you race for an extended period of time, and it's whoever is in the lead at the end of the race. Round robin, you're racing a clock, and so you get 4 lanes. You get 3 minutes in each lane, and it's total laps, right? And so that's the different style of racing, because you're not racing everybody at the same time, not like you would with digital. So that's the difference. Then the straight is 17 feet long. Your straight is 17 feet long. I feel like mine's about the same, about 16 and a half, 17 feet. 10.5 volts is good for wood track racing. I don't know what Butch runs his track at. I know that do they run 12 volts at Electric Dreams? The Fingers 46K is the longest. 25K is the biggest motor that I have. So nothing too crazy. John is correct that a timing system will usually choose for you, but I think some you can set the rotation as well. Yeah. Yeah, this one you have to set the rotation. Man, I'm missing a big track. Well, I just shortened mine, Travis. I went from 97 feet to 57 feet, but I went from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. So we're testing it out. We'll see if we like 4 lanes. Yeah, DNA, you'll have your big track back in March, Travis. Vin, yes, we run a wood track. That is true as well. Did I miss something? George, you run 10 on your wood track and on your Carrera track. John is correct that a timing. Okay, yeah, I already read that. Gotcha. Garth, I've always run 15 volts, mag and no mag. Yeah, Garth, hey, thanks for the recommendation on painting the track. I appreciate that. That was a great tip. I shared that earlier. Let's see here. I use the stock power supply with my digital and analog. So Johnny Pro, you're running 14.2, 14.3, something like that from the power supply. So by the time it gets to the CU, it's probably about 14 volts with your digital or analog. Let's see. Hey, Steve. Steve, man, I am so upset. The videos look great that I saw. Dusty sent me a little video. The track looks fantastic. Well done. I'll get down there, I promise. So next time you have a race, I'm hoping that I can make Bernie's on Saturday. So we'll see. Steve's track is awesome. Nice flow with good speed, some cool technical stuff. Yeah, I'm super jealous. Hey, Billy, I would try running it as a 4-lane digital. It's not the same thing if it's still 2 lanes. So, Billy, I have to do a couple of little wiring things to do digital 4-lane, but I will hopefully by this weekend be running 4-lane digital and 4-lane analog. I need some wire. I just haven't made it to my schedule's been kind of crazy. I apologize, guys. But I need to pick up some wire, and I need to do some testing. So, but it's coming, Billy. I promise. You tell me that I'm going to love 4-lane digital, and so I'm giving it a shot. Let's see here. Hey, Joseph. Glad you're here, man. What else? I always, where possible, try to replicate a wood layout with plastic. It's so difficult, though, Travis. You're so locked in to turn radiuses, and just 4 options when it comes to turn radiuses is not enough to get a true wood track type of feel. I will amend what I just said by saying you can get closer with 2 lanes. As soon as you go 4-lane, you're locked into pairing those lanes together. So your options are an R1 with R2s, R2s with R3s, R3s with R4s. And anytime you do that, it really locks you into the geometry of the track. And so 4 lanes really starts stifling you a little bit in how you can create flow. I mean, it's possible, but you got to get really creative. And mostly because of just sheer geometry. But I've even planned for a 6-lane layout, and I love the 6-lane layout, but it's super short. It's only like 47 or 48 feet of lane length. But I think it flows really well. So there's that. But yeah, I agree. With my last layout, I was really trying to create something that felt like a wood track. It's just something about being able to route those lanes and really have some varying turn radiuses. It's hard to replicate. It sure is. Yeah, Johnny Pro. I will, once I get all the wiring done, I got the track piece to be able to do 4 lanes digital. That was the first thing that I had to get. I did not have the multi-lane track piece. And then I've got to change the wiring in that. And I haven't opened it up yet to change that wiring because the lanes are connected inside. So, yes. Yes, Steve. Glad you had a nice turnout. Yeah, you definitely had good weather, I think, for the most part that day. At least I hope you did. The weather here was bad, but we had rain most of the morning. What speed are you set at when you run digital, Joseph? I don't throttle anything down when I run digital. I'm running at 10 in the tuning. We just max out the cars, but I can control it with the adjustable power supply. And so when we run digital, we run 14 volts. And then if we run 124 digital, then we run that at 18 volts. So those are the the voltage settings that we run. So what else do we have? 1 lap on my wood track is about 7.475 using Skillectrix Motors GT class. So Vin, times here are 5. The track record is 5:018, I think. and that was with a Thunder slot that has a motor in it that's got a little bit of magnet downforce. I'm actually building my own magnet marshal so that I can test what kind of downforce some of the motors are creating. But those Thunder slots, they sit so low that they really, if the motor does have some magnet effect to it, it will take advantage of that. And the 25K motor that I have has a good bit of magnet downforce, and it really impacts the way that car runs. So 5 flat is the fastest. And then most cars are running 5.5, 5.5, 5.6s. Super fast cars are like around 5.2. Fly cars are even under 6 seconds. The Revo slot cars are right around 6. The Group 2 cars are around 6 seconds. And my slowest cars are like 6.1, 6.2. So it did tighten the field a little bit because of the technical aspect of the track. Let's see. I need to get my F1 car together. 6.9s with baby Raptor motors. Let's see here. Yeah, Johnny Pro, thanks, man. Appreciate the thumbs up. I appreciate the subscribes. We hit 2,200 this morning, so that's all to you guys. Thanks for sharing my stuff. And yeah, good call. I came from racing commercial tracks and set my track up for flow. Yeah. This forum is throwing me off with all the rule questions. If it's an NSR part, it's an NSR part. Daryl hates rules and white cars. Hate that car. And that car. And that car. I realize I own a lot of white cars. I didn't realize I had a tendency to that. George, I had PC lap counter. I would recommend do not use it. It is a complex system. You could use fidgets with all kinds of stuff. Very good. Let's see. The Nationals will be at the owner's house from Cloverleaf, not the store. Oh, Garth, I thought the Nationals were going to be at the shop, not where they run the Michigan 24. I must be mistaken. Yeah, Greg, that's I feel like I was out on the website and read that it's going to be at the shop track. You will need to pay for the license if you want to commit to it. All for at PC lap counter, George. Okay. Amanda is practicing her slot cars in the other room. Hey, Richie. Welcome. Yep. Travis the legend. That's it. That's his catchphrase. Steve, are you headed up to the Nationals? Butch runs 11 volts. Yeah, I thought I remember somebody saying that. Eric Tucker, Electric Dreams is 12 volts. Okay. These next 2 weeks are going to be tough in the GRL. Garth, the race will be run at the store track in Cleveland, or Cloverleaf. Sorry. I thought I read that. Except when Jesus came to your wedding. Drunks got the good stuff. That's right, Steve. That's where I was going. All the Cloverleaf big races have been at his house. Interesting. Yeah, I think that it's at the shop track. I think that they made the decision to run them there. This has always been run at the store for the NSR. Can't wait to see the 4-lane digital video. Yeah, Johnny, I will make a specific video. So do I have it? Oh, it's laying over on the table. So my plan is to chip the Revo slot Group 2 car. to run digital, and that will be the car that we test the digital with. That's my plan. And so we'll do a full-blown video. Thanks to Fingers. I'm liking it. It's growing on me. I think with the changes that I want to make, we'll get there. Is Bernie's where they race the 86, 89s? Yes, John Albright. Bernie's track is where they run F1 about every other weekend. And I have not been on this track. I'm excited to get there. And so actually, if I go this weekend, I will take your 86, 89. We'll see how it runs. Marty going to make the NSR Nat for any of the days. So, Greg, here's the thing. My wife is headed to Florida with all of her sisters. She's one of 5. And so I am going to be here, which means I'll probably get lots of slot car time, but I also have to deal with the dogs. And so my thought was to just run up on Saturday, get up early and make the drive and go hang out for the day and watch some races. But just because I can't commit to like the 3 days, because if I was going to race, I would need to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I don't have the ability to do that. I've got to lead worship on Sunday at church, so I have to be back. So I'd have to really plan. But I would really like to go up and watch some of the races. One, I want to see you guys run, you and Josh. I didn't know Steve was going. That's awesome if you're going, Steve. So it could happen. Greg, I will let you know if it does. To make 4-lane digital, do you wire in the second 2 lanes into the one computer? So, Caveman, to make 4-lane digital, Carrera makes a track piece that is multi-lane, so it carries the power over from your CU track section, and it plugs in, and it powers the other 2 lanes, and then you have to run power taps to those other sets of lanes. So it's complicated. I didn't have enough wire, and so once I grab the wire on Saturday, I'll get it wired up. The other thing, I have to isolate those lanes so that when I turn it to analog, it doesn't backfeed through those wires into the CU, and so I've got to be able to isolate those. So either I put switches in or I put in some directional diodes to prevent that backfeed. So that's what I'm working on. You have more than 4 options when you mix and match track. That's fair. I know you can get some adapters to switch between different types of track. Yeah, thanks, Curvy. I was late to that. Hey, Scott, welcome. Good to have you, man. Yeah, Sunday has a couple videos running 4-lane digital. Let's see. October 27th, 28th, 29th. I haven't heard whether they're going to live stream that race. Man, I will tell you, Electric Dreams, they really have figured out how to televise a slot car race at about as the best you can. I was watching this weekend's race a little bit. They were running vintage Can-Am cars, and it was a lot of fun, but the coverage is really good. So, Marty, not sure if you noticed the way we routed the lanes to almost single file around the apex turn. I know exactly what you mean about being able to free-form the lanes. Yeah, Vin, I did notice that. You could kind of squeeze lanes. There's a website out there called CNC Track Design, I think, off the top of my head. And I really like their philosophy on a wood-routed track. And I would love to hook up with those guys and do some type of wood track design. I think it would be great. I think it would be great for the channel to build one of their wood tracks. But those guys I'm not on their radar. I thought about it would be great to work with them and just do one of their basic designs that they've already designed that would fit in my space. And then I would do some content building that track and sharing, how great they just really have got a great idea when it comes to lane spacing and creating apexes and turns that really create a smooth routed track. So I really like what they're doing. I just don't know those guys. I know that they're up in Michigan near Cloverleaf. And so like that was the other thing is I was going to reach out to them. If I make it up there on that Saturday, it would be cool to meet up with them and just ask a bunch of questions about designing a track. I have access. A buddy of mine has a large commercial CNC machine. So if I could get a great plan, I'd even be willing to like pay for a decent plan of a wood track and just throw it at my buddy Chad and have him cut it out on the CNC machine. That would be fun. Anyway, I don't know where that was going. First time you did it, you never answered all the questions. Uh-oh. Was that me? Did I not answer questions, George? Sorry. If I missed some questions, I apologize. Do you run any Scale Auto cars? Paul, I have one Scale Auto car, and this is the 963 Porsche, and it's a project, it's a white kit, and I've just put it together just so I could see what it looked like together, but I need to assemble it. But it is my, oops, now that I just dropped it and broke it, no. But it's my first Scale Auto. I will tell you this car is really fast. I don't know how to tune this car yet. So, hey, Mad P, welcome. But that's my only Scale Auto. I really like the NSXs that they have. So I'll definitely have to pick up one. Coffee. Don't forget about coffee. My buddy Trent at Rost. We'll just go ahead and throw it up there. So shout out to John Albright who ordered some coffee. Trent texted me and he's like, dude, I got this big coffee order from a guy I think is one of your subscribers. I said, he's not one of my subscribers. He's one of my friends, and he loves your coffee. And so, John, thanks, man. Trent was super stoked about that, and I think he just loves partnering with the channel to continue that. So, use 2 lines, and you get a discount on your coffee. And thanks for supporting Trent. He is one good dude, and I'm super proud of his business. He works hard, and I'm excited for him. So thanks for supporting him. When you support him, you're supporting me. And we'll give away some coffee tonight. So yeah, thanks. Really do need to do a video on how to wire a 4-lane digital track. Yeah, that would be a great video. NSR Nationals are the classes being raced. A fixed car, for example, Corvette for OpenGT and the new F1. Nick, I think they're running GT. I think they're running 3 classes. Formula 1, GT, and another. I guess it could be like Can-Am vintage. So I'm not sure. I went out and looked at it once, but Paul Clearwater is in Clearwater. He's in Florida. Making a new flea market layout tomorrow. I've used the same looking one for too many times. That's cool. I can't wait to see. I'm sure you'll do a video on it, Billy. Frankie, classes you race, do motors have to be the same in weight, either in-house or Cincy? So, Frankie, most of the classes run the stock motor at Cincy Slots. There is modified Trans Am and vintage. And yes, modified Trans Am and vintage. Then you can run different motors. Those are both like the modified classes, if you want to call it that. So you have your choice, but for Group C, Group 5, it's all stock slotted, stock sideways motors. Yeah, Steve, that's awesome. I wish you luck. So, Frankie, I hope that answered your question. And so since we race at Cincy Slots a lot here at the track, we kind of follow their rules, just so that we don't have to retune cars and swap motors out and do all those things. So it just makes sense for us to loosely follow the rules that they're running there at the club. But weekend to Bernie's, that's right. I must be way behind. For once, I'm old enough to understand someone's movie joke on here. That's funny. Party at Marty's. Yeah. So I thought about hosting a race event, but I've got some. If I go up for the NSR Nationals, I've got somebody that'll house sit for me, mainly just to take care of the dogs. So I could do that for the one day, but then that doesn't leave a whole lot of time to host a race here at the house. So, yeah, Chris, that's funny. Oh, my wife, she will keep tabs on me. Don't you worry. Was a wood club. Nice. That's cool. Yeah, Bernie is a career track. So, yeah, Greg, even if it's just for one day, I would really like to come experience that. And I would, if I go, I mean, definitely would have the camera with me and create some content, right? Just leave your keys under the rug, Marty. We'll be sure to clean up afterwards. Yep, the fingers, no problem. I've got a refrigerator down here, usually stocked with water and the diet green tea. Let's see. You'll get the pizza. Thanks, Scott. The vintage class is an NSR vintage car made. The GT class is any NSR GT car made. The F1 class is only the 86-89. Very cool. The Cincy Slot Points Championship is pulling on me when I should have all my focus on the NSR cars. But I love all the guys up at Cincy. I would miss it, even the crazy traffic on Thursday evenings. Steve, I don't think I can make it this Thursday. I've canceled too many things the last 2 weeks to make sure that we're there. So I don't know that I'll be there this Thursday, but following Thursday for sure. Andrew Jackson, will there be a non-schematic of the floor lane? Yes, there will. I'm working on that. So I will add the additional lanes. It's super easy. It's pretty much following the same instructions. You're just adding 2 more lanes. So yes, there will eventually be a non-schematic. Just wanting to see if it was run differently to here in Oz. I didn't make the national, but they had fixed cars in 2 of the classes. Their prices are insane. Whose prices? Building a wood track in your head. So DeFingers, yes. I am always looking at track designs. It's one of the things that I'm fascinated about the hobby. There are so many great track and well-designed tracks out there, and I get ideas from all of them. And so if I'm going to invest money in building a wood layout, like I want to nail the layout, right? I want to make sure that it has the right flow and it's the right size and it fits in my space the way it should fit. And so I really think that if I'm going to go all in and do a wood track, you got to get it right. And so I look at all kinds of different designs just to make sure that I'm going down the right path. But yeah, I've sketched out. I'll be on the phone at work. I got a sketch pad and I'm writing notes. And I'll be on the phone and I'll find myself doodling track designs. Not me, Marty. Okay, thanks, George. You let me off the hook. Lunch King, his uncle in Detroit, has an awesome wood track with free-flowing lane changing inside, outside lanes. Yeah, Curvy, I've watched that video. It's an impressive layout. Yeah, Greg, my car doesn't do what the car you did. And there's some things in this car that about this chassis I don't quite understand yet. And it's probably because I haven't really officially built. There's still lots of parts in the box that I have not done. So I've not had time to invest in that car. I will. Um, that might be one of the projects this week that I work on in the evenings. So I appreciate that. Thanks. Justin, I got the same Scale Auto kit. The car is heavy but fast, has a very different feel from slotted cars. I agree, Justin. I have put it on the track, even though it's not really complete and ready to roll, and it is super fast. Super impressed with it. I did get to drive Greg's for a few laps. I was a little worried. I wasn't on my controller, and so I didn't want to crash the car. It stayed in the lane, and man, that thing was fast. It was so good. Curvy, the guy with the 3-lane wood track. We have our roast coffee subscription. Danny, thanks, man. I enjoy it. Just so you know, they just released Guatemala, some new beans, and I think I've got to pick up beans tomorrow because I'm out. I haven't had coffee in 3 days because I've been out of beans. And I'm gonna swing by and he recommends it. It's a single source, but he recommends it for espresso. So usually I won't break away from the Brazil because I've got everything set up for it. But he says that it shouldn't be too far off. So I'm going to try it. But he said the flavor, it's got like strawberry, blueberry, and chocolate notes, which is an interesting combination. Go ahead and go up north early. I will use your race points wisely. Hey, Barry, welcome. Gary, Marty, the Shadow wants to run on the track. Gary, the Shadow actually performs really well on this new layout. I ran some laps with it the other day, and it gets around. It's a 5.2 car. It's faster on this layout than it is the big layout that I had before. Yeah, John, I'm interested to hear about the other flavors. What you like. I hope you like all of them because I think they're all really good. But some, like the Zambia and the Ethiopian, I think, or is it the other two that you got, those are really good if you're doing not espresso. If you're using that the Zambia tastes awesome. It just doesn't espresso well. It's very finicky. I feel like for my machine and my grinder, I was all over the place and I wasted so much just trying to get the shot dialed in. But it's really good for pour overs. And so that's kind of what I would recommend. Let's see. Yeah, DeFingers. The Brazil is so smooth and good. I love it. Rob, I've been on the road, so I haven't had a chance to hear the stream, but I'm here now. Welcome, Rob. Good to have you. Yeah, Frankie, no problem, man. Johnny Pro, Cloverleaf. They actually have a web store. They sell a lot of slot cars and parts and things like that. But then they also have a track, and they also host the Michigan 24, which is a 24-hour endurance race. And some guys from the Cincinnati area go up each year. And they had a really good showing this past year. Ran really well. Agreed. Was disappointed they fixed 2 of the classes. Not sure why. Freedom to choose will make it more interesting. Cloverleaf is out of town. They're near Detroit, but I don't think that's the name of the town. Let's see here. Anyway, gosh, I feel like all I'm doing is answering questions. And we've talked a lot about the layout, so we're gonna go with this layout for a little bit. Once I get the track pieces that Frankie sent me, I'll make the one change that I feel like needs to be made, and then we'll run that for a month or so and see how it goes. So I really like to try it and do a race night with it and see what happens. A bunch of guys that I work with are wanting to come over and mess around on the track. And so I thought I would just run that as a race night so they could see it kind of organized. And so we'll go from there. I would supply the cars. I do need to pick up a couple more controllers. I don't have enough spares for analog. So that's one of the things that I've got to work on too. So if I miss any questions as I'm scrolling through these, there we go. Question, Marty, what is the first thing you discovered when you first started running a 4-lane track? Rob, great question. One, no matter how you slice it, the size of your table impacts the size of your track. And you can only squeeze so much track, so much layout on an 8x24 table, which I realize is a big space. But I went from 97 feet to 57 feet in lane length. And it's just it feels like a short track to me. And I know that that's probably bigger than a lot of guys have room for. And I don't mean anything by that. I'm not trying to be offensive when I say that. But the first thing I noticed is like now the lanes feel really short. So the laps are quick. But I think that in my head, I can imagine having some guys running on the track with me, and I'm anticipating it to be a lot of fun. I love 4-lane racing just because I think it's just competitive and it's fun. Having a couple of other people to race, it helps me keep up a quick pace when there's usually somebody ahead of me that you can try to hunt a little bit, and so or to pace with. I find that if I get next to somebody who's really fast, like Steve or Bruce or Greg or Daryl or any of the other Pat, any of the other fast guys, Josh, all those guys are super fast at Cincy. If I can get next to them, on a 2-lane, we can get separated, and maybe you don't make up any ground, or they don't make any ground on you, but you're not racing with them very much. But on a 4-lane, you're probably always going to be near somebody. And so that's the one thing that I think that I'm looking forward to, Rob, and that is I think that's going to be fun. The car flows better with R2 and R3s. Yes, R4 are great. And so that's one thing I'm implementing is more of my R4s into the layout, so I can widen some of these turns and kind of give me some smoother S's and actually pull some of the straights out. So I bought like 8 extra straights, and I'm not going to use any of them. I should have bought turns. Let's see. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the R1s though, man. Like, technical driving is important. You need to be able to maneuver those sharper turns. It's part of learning how to be a well-rounded racer. And I think that's what I was running into with the layout. I loved this previous layout with 2 lanes. I think it was a fantastic layout, and I would go back to it in a heartbeat. But there was some things that it was missing because we just made it flow so well. And so that I miss out on some of the technical driving. And so when I go to another track, I feel like I might struggle with some of those tighter turns. Like when I go to Butch's, I feel like I come out of the slot way more than I should because I'm not ready for those sharper turns. Even though they flow well on the wood track, they're still a very sharp turn. And when you don't have that on your everyday track, then you lose your touch in those. So that's my feeling. Let's see. Daryl, John Albright, some of the guys didn't pay attention, so I had to wreck in some corners. That's funny. Let's see. Teaching is a rough trade. Why a wood track versus Carrera or Skill Electrics? So, Barry, I've had the opportunity to race on a couple different types of tracks now. I love my Carrera track. I love the fact that I can change it up every 6 months or so, and I enjoy that piece of it. But there's something special about racing on a wood track. Not gonna lie. And then once you've done that a couple times, it kind of gets in your blood a little bit. Butch has an amazing wood track, and I missed out racing on Jamie's wood track. So hopefully I can get down there sometime when Jamie's racing. But yeah, there's an allure to a wood track once you've put some laps in on one. So yeah, that's really what it is. good choice. Bourbon. I enjoy changing up the track just to keep it fresh as much as I think it would be cool to own a wood track. I better like the layout if not. Yeah, I think you really have to do your homework if you're looking at building a wood track. I think that it would be cool to build a modular wood track, and there are some out there, and there's some people who've built modular where you can actually change the layup slightly because the track is built in sections. And so I've been experimenting with some ideas. It'll probably never come to fruition, but of some ways to make some CNC panels that they kind of lock in, and that you could make some changes. Turn a straight into a series of S's and some things like that. So that you really have to just Hey, John Mark, what's up, man? I think you have to be open to understanding that once you commit to a wood track, you're committed. Now I know there are people who have like bondoed, filled them in, and rerouted. You can do some of that, but hey, Larry, you're invited to. Hi, you're invited to Elyria, Ohio, for our Wednesday night racing. We have a place for you to stay, so gas will be. Larry, that would be awesome. I'm not afraid of you're 3.5 hours from me. I'm not afraid of that. So, yeah, Larry, send me here. I'm going to put my email address in the comments. And I know there are people who are like, don't do that. I mean, I'm on YouTube. You can find me on Google. So there's my Gmail address. And so send me an email with your information. I'd love to know more about your race nights on Wednesdays. And so maybe it's one of those where I can just take a day off and get up there, do some racing, and have the following day off and go hit a few things. I mean, you're not far from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or anything up there. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Tic Tac Group C is coming. I love it. Love it. So, yeah, Larry, if you would send me information, that would be great. Thanks for the invite. I had a good day in the market today, so I will see you at 4. That's great. So, yeah, Larry, if you can hit me with the information, like where we're going, what you guys are racing, so we can prep some cars to go, that would be fun. Yeah, Steve, Brazil is a nice morning coffee drink. Yep. Only 20 minutes away. The track a very large Carrera. Wednesday is the only night that we race right now. NSR only and no magnets. Okay. Thanks, Larry. NSR only. So any NSR would fit the bill? That is very cool. Steve drinks a lot of coffee, and George's response, I can tell. That's great. Steve, I drink 1 cup. I limit myself to 1 cup a morning, mainly because I don't drink it black. I put some sugar in it, some sweetener. Rost has developed a simple syrup that is sugar-free, and it tastes fantastic. I've experimented with all kinds of simple syrups, trying to use the different sugar replacement stuff just to cut out some sugar, and they all taste awful. You can switch the direction of the way the car runs. Slot Car Corner has the switches. Yeah, actually, Vin, it's pretty simple. It's just a polarity switch that I had it hooked up, but because I run digital, you can't do that with digital lanes. So if I was going to run backwards, I would need to change the digital track out, I think. Let's see. That's cool. Yeah, the one I could see. I started in 132nd. And I can see where HO is fun. But I could see where you could get bit by the bug because the 1/32 scale cars just, I mean, the detail on these cars nowadays is just fantastic. Love them. So, yeah, good stuff. I was going to talk about something else. What else? So Cincy Slots, the race, we had a great time last Thursday. I'm probably not going to make it this Thursday, which is disappointing. So Steve, you're off the hook. I won't be knocking you out of the lane, unless something changes. So, but we had a great time. My brother is getting fast, folks. He got me in Group C, but I got him in Group 5. Not that we're competing against each other, but we race so much together that we find ourselves like next to each other in the standings all the time. So we are very, very close. And so the last 2 weeks, that's what we've done. We've swapped. One week he beat me and he finished ahead of me in Group 5, and then I got him in Group C. And then this past week it was the opposite of that. So my Group 5 race really improved. My Group C race, I started out with the fat turbo. Tuning is just a little off on it, and I finished with the Nissan, and the Nissan is a nice car. It handles really well. Really, really pleased with that. Johnny Pro DTMs and GT3. I haven't found a DTM car that I love. The only DTM cars I have I have 2 124 scale DTMs, and I think I've got a Carrera DTM. But outside of that, Johnny Pro, what tires for what car are you looking for? Johnny Pro DTMs and GT3. You're looking for Carrera tires. Well, you can go to urethanes, or silicone. Super Tire makes great tires. You've got Quick Slicks, which are great tires for Carrera. So you can find them, but if you want to stick with rubber tires, I know Bobcat's tires. He has urethanes, I believe, for a bunch of Carrera cars. So they're out there. Caveman, I just got my 50th car in less than 3 months. 1.5 coming tomorrow. I crashed BMW, missing a roof. We'll use on a 1/32 model car body. Nice. Scott, the Nissan did run pretty good. I'm super pleased with that car, and I think it's got more in it. The motor seems a little soft to me, but it felt quick at Cincy Slots. So, hey, thanks, Dahi. Appreciate you for hanging out. I'll get with you on the podcast, man. Maybe next week would work out great if that works out for you, since I've got some extra time. So, yeah, John Albright. I was going to say the NSR rubber fits a lot of different cars, and I know a lot of people really like those tires. So that might be an option for you. That might be an option. So, yeah, I agree. So what else is on tap? I was going to talk a little bit about gearing, and I've had conversations with Daryl Rogers, who's in the chat, and John Albright, and my brother Dusty, and we've had a lot of conversations about gearing. And do you guys mess with the gearing on your slot cars, or do you just kind of run them the way they come? Because I've not been a person that's messed with the gearing much. Honestly, I've not messed with gearing at all. I picked up some pinions. I picked up a couple of different size crown gears or spur gears, and and I don't know. Understanding gear ratios, what you should run on different tracks. Like I think that I could get away with changing the gearing on a car and make it work even better on this track. And so I've got the one long straight, but so much of the track now is turns, right? And so can I pick up time by changing the gear? Maybe I lose a little time in the long stretch. Maybe I'm 3/4 down the straight stretch and I'm topped out, top speed. But maybe with the different gearing, I can get through the S turns faster. And so do you guys have any like rule of thumbs that you deal with? Do you play with gearing a lot? Do you I guess what's your opinion? I look at the Group C class, and a lot of the guys were running the same gear ratio, at least the same spur gear. Maybe they were running different pinions. I guess that's potentially the case because I wasn't counting. But with the slotted gears, you can tell what color they are, and that'll give you the tooth number. And so there were a few people that were running the blue gear, which is the 26 tooth, and then they come with the yellow gear stock, which is, I believe, the 28 or 29 tooth, the yellow. So I don't know. There's the black sits in between. So there's blue, black, yellow. So 26, 27, 28 maybe. So what are you guys running? Does anybody have any opinions on the gearing? Chris, because it's just the two of you, I've not messed with gearing. Motors, on the other hand, we have changed out dogs for better quality motors. Thanks, George. Thanks for posting that. Help people understand how to measure the tires, and then you can go to the to that link, and that would help. I just got into Carrera Digital myself in August. Justin, Carrera Digital is a blast, man. It's so much fun, and the Smart Race app makes digital just fantastic. Last note, I'm sure Mike would do a weekend race to accommodate anyone interested. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, no, we can make it work. I'll figure something out if you guys are racing on Wednesdays. Maybe between now and the holidays, I can make the trip up there. That would be fun. So, Vin, your opinion is don't change the pinion. Well, I wish pinions were easier to get off of the motor shaft. I really thought about buying a handful of the Scale Auto the Slotting Plus that have the set screw, just because it's so much of a pain to change the pinion. John, gearing ratio is one thing, tire diameter is another part of the equation, right? And that's fair. And I guess if I were truing rubber tires on the back, that if I took enough off, that I would definitely take any off, it would change the gear ratio. So maybe to get back to the stock gear ratio, that I would have to maybe go up a pinion, up a tooth maybe. 926 on your Group C cars. Daryl, your Group C cars are flying, man. So I think I want to try that ratio and see what it does. I know that it will react different on my layout now compared to Bruce's layout. But, Johnny, I wish Smart Race had a set price to purchase the whole thing. I can't justify paying monthly. I know. But, I mean, he probably doesn't make probably makes very little money off of that for all the development time that he spends for that software, and it's really good. But yeah, my wife asks every month when the Apple charge comes across, what is that subscription for? You're right. Gearing, tire size. I've been running the yellow, switch to black and blue to see what happens. Steve, I'm going to do the same tests. I've got blue and I've got black. Black is in another car. I'm going to pull it out and then just do some testing. And I guess that's all you can do, right? Is run some tests and see how it impacts the car. And I guess that's the fun part. Hey, Raul, just got back from school, man. Welcome. Good to have you. I'm running late tonight. I got a late start, about 35 minutes late. I had a board meeting that I was in and a podcast recording, and they kind of ran over. So it was a busy night. Yeah, Dusty has a puller. I have not invested in one of those yet. I just usually kind of steal his when he's here. But again, I haven't messed with gearing, so I haven't really had a reason. Basically, I just roll with the pinion that's on the motor and go from there. So, but I guess now it's time. John Mark, 488 gear with Mickey 50s for a small block Chevy is the ticket. Yeah. There you go. 411. Is that what George said? 391s. I mean, I guess it's the same gear ratio, right? It's just in scale. I mean, like, so it depends on what kind of driving you're going to do. Slotting Plus has a great tool. Putting them on is easy. I've used the slotted one. Yeah, there's a couple of choices out there. Does changing the gear ratio make cars more of a handful in the turns? So, Justin, like, here's my take on gearing, and I will be the first one to admit that I don't know a lot about it. But I would say if you go up a tooth in your pinion, then or even two teeth, you are gaining top end speed but losing some torque. And if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. But I remember back in my RC days, we didn't really mess with spur gears too much, but we always would play around with pinion gears. And if you wanted a little top end speed, you would go up a tooth in your pinion or up two teeth, but not too far because then your mesh is, could get ugly. And if you wanted more torque, less top end, then you would drop a tooth. And so that's kind of my feeling. So if you wanted something that maybe was a little calmer coming out of the turns, maybe go up a tooth in your pinion. But maybe the easier thing is to go up in your spur gear. Or is it opposite the spur gear? You would go down. So if I went from 28 tooth spur gear to a 26 tooth spur gear, that probably makes my engine rev a little higher. It probably gives you more torque, a little less top end. If I've got that right. Question: I have all kinds of tools. I've been watching George's videos. Nice. So that means more scratch building in your future, right, Gary? Joseph, you guys are too advanced for me. I'm just trying to figure out what to put on my front tires to lower the noise and grip. Nail polish is not working. Nail polish can get noisy, especially on Carrera cars. I feel like it just makes those tires hard as a rock, and those cars just make a lot of noise already. Joseph, we're not too advanced, man. We're all simple guys. Don't you worry. But you asked the question, we'll find an answer for you. There's all kinds of different ways to treat. So those front tires, what I've been doing is using not furniture polish. I think you could probably use furniture polish. I've been using floor polish like Mop and Glow, and it doesn't make them super slippery, but it does ease the grip on the front end. But I feel like for my driving style, if I go nail polish, it's too much for me. So think of gearing up like on a bicycle. Yeah. Okay. Not with the right tool. That's fair. Old school there. I use a hammer. Joseph, super tire, zero grips. That's a good place to start. The zero grip front tires. They're nice. So that's, I can see that gearing, based on what I'm seeing in the live chat, is not a lot of guys mess with gearing unless they're super into racing, right? And then I would think that, gearing is going to be based on the actual, the actual track you're on. So it's going to be different for each track. Like George always says, tune for your track. So tune for the track that you're going to be on, right? Bigger pinion, higher top speed, less acceleration also means more stress on the motor, right? So you have to weigh, are you okay with that, right? So that makes sense. Thanks, John. And that's simplifying it, I know, but sometimes that's really all you need to hear, right? Is like, how does it impact what can you expect the car to do if you start playing with the gearing? And most of us aren't on tracks where we probably have to mess with the gearing too much. But my old track, I think there were a couple cars that I probably could have messed with the gearing, even just going one tooth, and I could probably have made it get through the corners a little quicker and top end would have been good because they just had so much torque that you would just come out of a turn and break loose because you just had all kinds of you had more torque than you had traction. So I've punched the rear end of the drive shaft through the back seat floorboard of my 70 Camaro. I know a guy that broke his foot that way. Came through the floor and crushed his heel and bottom portion of his leg. You're sometimes better off to drop a tooth on the drive gear. Gear ratio is gear ratio. Yeah. Sometimes it might be easier, right, than changing the pinion. That's fair. Marty, check out the 56 Chevy in the Avengers chat when you get a chance. Okay, I will. Thanks, Danny. Danny, dude, the guy has got a brilliant idea. I think that would, yeah, now I want a laser cutter. Sorry, that's another conversation that was happening offline. 1 in the front, 3 in the rear. Yeah, no problem, Joseph. Always happy to help, man. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The guys in this live chat, they love to answer questions. As much as I enjoy answering questions that I know, that I have the knowledge, I'll be the first to admit that if it's something I don't know, I'll try not to lead you down the wrong path. But there are always people in this live stream that are really good and have great answers. So don't be afraid to ask. Does anyone feel there is enough downforce in the motor magnets to run a car without ballast? This is on Carrera Track. Oh gosh, Larry, I have an NSR GT40 that for the first month that I owned it, I didn't think I needed ballast. It was fast, it handled really good, it cornered really well. But the more I put laps on it, the more I realized that it just needed just a little bit of lead to keep the nose down. And as soon as I did that, it stayed in the slot, like just locked in the slot. And before, if I really tried to push the car, like it would come out of the slot, and it made the car just a slight bit of ballast. It was probably like 2.5 grams, maybe 3 grams at the most, and it really just settled the car down. And so I for Carrera Track, I think most cars you probably it'd be hard to get away with no ballast, but it's possible. I think that it depends on how your driving style too. So, but I feel like sometimes the car just needs it to keep the nose in the slot a little better, so that you can push it a little harder in turns, get a little better traction, all those things. So hopefully that answered your question. Also, Marty dropped the whole floorboard drive side out of my old 75. Nice. Yeah, my floorboards were going in my Maverick as well. Does Carrera Track offer better flow than Skeletric? That's right. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. So, Samuel, back to your question. Does Carrera Track offer better flow than Skeletric? I think that Carrera Track has wider lane distance. So your lanes are a little wider, and which makes your track a lot bigger. So Skeletric and Polycar and Scale Auto, you can put a smaller track in a space. The turns, and Dave Kennedy has a great video that he lays out like 4 different types of track in a big 180 turns together, and you can see the difference. And so I could probably easily get about 120 feet of track on this table, lane length, 2-lane, in Skeletric. Maybe even a touch more, where 100 feet is really pushing it without like too many bridges, right? So I feel like, but when it comes to flow, I feel like flow is such an opinion. Somebody might say that this track has great flow, and then somebody else might throw their car on it and say, "Ooh, I don't feel like this track has good flow." It's not always about wide turns with flow. I think a lot of flow has to do with rhythm and being able to get into a nice rhythm. And so, super technical, lots of tight turns, short straights, on and off the gas. Versus, I think you can build a great flowing track in any track system. I don't know that one track system is better than another when it comes to flow. I think there are people who are fans of Polycar because it's very grippy. There are people who are fans of Carrera because of the lane spacing. There are people who are fans of Skeletrics because it's you have tighter turns you can work with, so you can fit more track in a smaller space. Skeletric nail it when it comes to borders. They just look fantastic. And so I think you have differences in all of those. Scale Auto's track is just basic. It's about building a 2-lane, 4-lane, 6-lane, 8-lane, 10-lane, 12-lane racetrack. But it doesn't. It's pretty much all one color and nothing fancy. I think it's a nice track. I've not gotten my hands on any of it or raced on it, but it's definitely, it doesn't have the detail that Skeletrics and Carrera track have. So that's a long answer for your question. Speaking of adding weight, Marty, did you add any to the front of your 956, 962? I'm wondering if that would help mine run better. So Justin, so with slotted cars, I will tell you that if you put the weight where they have, where you're supposed to put the weight in the motor pod, 2.5 grams in each of those spots, that's what the tungsten bars weigh. So if you can pick up the tungsten bars, they're about $6 a piece, but it really is a great location for the weight in slotted Group C cars. And probably all slotted cars. Um, I I have the weight in mine kind of central, just so that the car stays balanced, and that seems to keep the nose in the slot. Um, in the Nissan, I put the weight in the motor pod where the tungsten bars go. Um, in this car, I have a piece of lead that sits right in front of the motor pod towards the guide, and I'm thinking about moving it because I think that the car could perform a little better. I think that it needs to be maybe a little further back. And the Hexel, I'm sort of in the same boat. So hope that. But I do think adding weight. I think I'm at about 3.5 grams, or no, 5 grams of weight in those cars, Justin, and I think that really really helps settle those cars down. Daryl, if you don't ask, then you don't learn. That's exactly right. So if I'm getting this correct, changing the gear that is attached to the wheels, the torque will lower so that there's less chance of deslot in the corners. That's if you drop a tooth or two with that gear. You'll have a little less torque. I'm not sure that it just might make it easier to drive out of the turn and be able to accelerate. It'll just slow the acceleration. The other thing you can do is you can buy a good controller, the DeFalco 302 or 304, 302. It has traction control, and that's sort of what the traction control will do. Is it'll just take a little bit of the edge off of that and change that acceleration to a curve coming out of a curve. So it acts like traction control. So maybe you don't need to change your gearing if you have that. But there are probably reasons why you would want to change gearing. I've heard that people going faster by pulling the 25K for the 21.5 tracks and power bands. So, Steve, I have both the 21.5 bearing motor from Predator and the 25K, the new bearing motor, and I like them both. I could see where putting the 21.5 motor in makes a car quicker. It's just a very controllable power band. Really like it. It's super smooth. And I could just see where it would make a car drive better. You might have some more straight line speed with that 25K motor, but I think that it makes the car way more controllable in the S turns. And so, yes, I do think that we've seen some people, depending on the class of cars, run the 21.5 over the 25K. Yep, cars can be faster. If they're smoother, the car gets sketchy with too much power. I have an NSR. This is John Albright. I have an NSR Sidewinder cars that I've switched out 25K for 21.5 and have gained 5/10 on my layout. I would believe that. John has a Scalextrics layout, so the turns are pretty tight, and I could see that smooth motor, that 21.5 motor, rolling through those turns and just being able to jump on it and really have controlled power coming out of those turns to make up all kinds of time. I believe it. I've seen it in my own cars. I have my two Thunder slots. I have an M6A and I have an Elva. I have a 25K motor in the Elva and I have a 21.5 motor in the M6A. And the M6A is faster than the Elva right now, and the Elva has a bigger motor. So, and easier to drive. So let me say that their lap times are really close, but the M6A is so much easier to drive because the power is more controllable. Pat, yes, it is Tuesday. Don't you worry. I was late to the game tonight, so the fact that you might have missed some is because of me. Does the type of guides matter that much. Um, so if you buy an NSR, it ships with the standard NSR guide, which isn't great for Carrera track, but is probably fine for Scalextric's track or Scale Auto track or some of the other European tracks. But then they also make a wood guide that is a little wider, thicker, and a little longer. And so I do think the guide does matter. I really like the Slot Invasion. Oscar, who owns Slot Invasion, is in the chat sometimes. Great guy. But we buy a lot of Slot Invasion guides because we just really like how they perform on Carrera track. Now, I noticed that it made less of a difference on a wood track. They were still good on a wood track, but it made less difference. I'm really happy with the Slotting Plus or the Scale Auto guides. Those are really good too. But yeah, I think the guide does matter. I think that like with the Revo slots on Carrera track, I always put the wood guide in on Revo slots because it just really performs better. But I would say somebody on Scalextric tracks doesn't need to make that change because they don't have the depth in the slot like you do with Carrera. Yes, thanks, the fingers. I appreciate that. Daryl, Carrera 124, absolutely. Thanks, Curvy. Appreciate you hanging out, man. Thanks. Carrera 124 on the floor. I hope that answered your questions. But yes, yes, Frank and Slot have great guides for Carrera cars. So yes, the guide does matter. Pat, that's all right. Went from a 25K motor and a modified Trans Am to 20K and 21.5K motors, and they're much more drivable. Yeah, I think they can, too much power, they get a little twitchy. One question, does running your track at 12 volts work better than adjusting the speed and braking in the Smart Race app? So Justin, yes and no. I think that if you run the track at 12 volts and you're still running digital, you might still play with the speed in the app. We don't normally do that anymore. We did early on when we were all learning to drive, but usually we run the cars at 10 at max, 100%. But then the braking definitely changes based on the voltage. But if you run it at 12 volts, you're just going to find that your cars come out of the slot less. You do less marshalling. They probably perform a little better, but just maybe not as fast. So that's the big thing. But I think you could still use the Smart Race app to control some cars, especially if you're trying to make cars even. Like one thing with Carrera cars is you can put 10 Carrera cars out there and they all 10 are nowhere near each other in performance. And so sometimes you can use the computer to even that out. Yes, Slot Invasion are excellent. Yep. My Scalextric cars work terribly with no magnets. Why is this so? Samuel. So Carrera, Scalextrics, even Fly cars, they all come with magnets for a reason. They were made to run magnets. Now, a lot of us don't like to run magnets. We like to run no magnets because we love tuning cars, right? So we love to try to get the maximum out of it without the assistance of magnets. So I think that the Scalextric cars, they come with magnets because they were made to run with magnets. Carrera cars come with magnets because they don't have the ability to tune like an NSR or a Thunder Slot or a slotted car. They don't have the adjustability, right? It doesn't mean that they're bad cars. They were made to run with magnets. And so when we pull magnets out of them, there's an expectation that we have is we've got to figure out the tuning. And so my guess is with the Skelectric cars, you're just not getting the traction that you can with magnets, and that's probably maybe spoiling the experience. I will tell you, the first time we pulled magnets out of a car, we hated it. We hated it. I mean, it was just a matter of minutes, and we were all wanting to put magnets back in. And then we got a Slot-it, and then we got an NSR, and then we got some of these other brands that had the ability to be tuned in a way that you didn't need the magnet to get traction. And so, like, that's the transition as you start in the beginning and move towards being more than just a novice, right? And so we're all on a different path. It all takes different times to get there for each of us. I was doing this YouTube channel, so I feel like I advanced rather quickly because I had a lot of people reaching out to me to help me. I would put a video out there, and they were like, "Marty, oh my gosh, you're doing this all wrong. Let me help you." And I appreciate that. I learned a lot, and it was just very helpful. So I think that's what you need to think about. Was the car really made to run no magnets? Maybe you leave the magnets in. Those electric cars, you will probably enjoy them on the track a lot more if you just leave the magnets in. And there's no crime. There are lots of people who complain about magnets. There's a big camp on the no magnet side. And there's a big camp on the magnet side. Don't worry about that. Race what makes you enjoy racing the cars. So leave the magnets in. So what I would do is, like with your Skelectrics and your Carrera cars, maybe you leave the magnets in those, and then you pick up a car like a Slot-it or an NSR, or a Thunder Slot, or any of those other cars that have some tunability to them, sideways. Then you pick up one of those cars to go no magnets and learn to go no magnets, because I think your driving experience with no magnets will be so much better, because you will have the ability to adjust the front end and the axle ride height. You'll have the ability to put some weight in it and adjust a motor pod and do the things that a car requires to run no magnets on a track. Long answer. I apologize. But hopefully that helps. You can have a 75K motor that will fly down the straight, but if you can't put the power to the ground through the corners, it's useless. Yep, I agree. Marty, what voltage do you run your 4-lane at? Right now I'm running at 12 volts. Larry, I'm probably going to move to 13. The old layout, we ran 14 volts all the time. Because of the way the flow, we didn't have any R1 turns, right? So we could carry way more speed through the turn and stay in the slot. With this one, I've got R1 turns kind of all over the place. And so the 12 volts makes the car manageable. I think we'll probably bump to 13, kind of meet halfway, so that there's a little bit more challenge. Because I drove like 107 over 4 races, 3 minutes long. I ran 107 laps and didn't come out of the slot in any of the lanes. So I probably could push the voltage a little bit. So there you go. Yeah, John is correct. Skelectric and Carrera and No Mag require tuning more so than many of the other brands. Yep, there are things that you have to do. The biggest thing with Carrera and Skelectric is getting traction. And so that's when tire truing comes into play, trying to maximize adding some weight, some ballast to the cars. That's really what it comes down to. And then you've got Carrera 124 cars, which there's not a lot you can do to tune those. You can't run body float because it'll drop the screws out everywhere on the track. You can't. There's just not a lot you can do to tune those. They're kind of what they are, and that's okay. That's what makes them fun, and usually makes the racing very even. And they are a blast to race digital. I really like running 124 digital. We have been pretty much shamed into running magnetless. It's natural now. Steve, I would agree. Like I look back and I don't know that I enjoy magnets that much anymore. But it is fun to just go as fast as you can go on the track. And that's what magnets will allow you to do. And there are a lot of tracks that run like a 250 class where you can have up to 250 grams of downforce, magnet downforce in your car. And those races are crazy. The cars are super, super fast, but there's chaos and carnage when they come off the track. So it's all it. Samuel, yeah, it's all about learning about the hobby. That's what makes it so much fun. Is there's every time you turn around, there's something new to learn. And man, this is the type of conversation that gets me all excited. I love talking about getting into the hobby and learning those first things. But once we made the decision to go no mags, we really kind of put our magnet cars to the side for a little while. We go back to them every once in a while, but we really focus on those non-Carrera brands with the Carrera track, with the Carrera Digital. So that's the thing. Mag or no magnet, who cares as long as you're having fun? Yeah, man, it's what it's all about. It baffles me that the arguing that happens sometimes when it comes to those things, and it is what it is. Just have fun racing your slot cars, and if it takes magnets to have fun, use magnets. As you progress, I think there will be an urge to learn to become a better driver and a better tuner, and those are all baby steps in the process of going from a beginner slot car to a novice slot car hobbyist to a racer, right? To somebody who races on the weekends, or it really starts to take the hobby to another level. That's what's fun. Wait, but I love it. Yes. What is it? Way harder on cars. Yeah, that's the one thing. With magnets, it's so much harder on cars. Like, I've raced this car a lot. It has probably a couple thousand laps, to the point where I'm rubbing some paint off. That's the only damage to this car. It has all the other plastic parts. The only thing that's missing is the mirrors. Like that, if this was a digital car, like the wing would be broke off. Like it would be a mess. And so like that's the beauty of Carrera and Scalextrics. Those things are built like tanks, man. They're made to take that abuse. So that's why my magnet cars, the only magnet cars I have, are my Carrera cars, because they can handle it. Let's see what else. Steve talks about it being too unrealistic, and that's fair. I mean, scale speeds with magnets is like 400 or 500 miles an hour. But we go to a commercial track with the big wing cars, the 124 scale. Like, I don't know how guys drive those things. They are so fast. Visually, I can't see them. It's nuts. Yeah, Pat. Magnet cars don't come off the track. They fly off the track. Exactly. Chris, we still run magnets, but I'm working on weaning myself to less powerful magnets. So, Chris, I think part of that is as you learn to become a better car tuner, you'll figure out that, I mean, no magnets right off the bat can be really frustrating, because you are still used to driving a car with magnets. So it takes some time, get used to lapping and understanding, but I think it becomes the feel thing. You really start to feel the car in the controller. It's kind of hard to explain, but like I feel like I can feel when I overdrive into a turn. I can feel it in my hands. Like, oh, I missed my brake point and that. The car is right on the edge. I can feel it. And it's a weird sensation, but it really is what you start to develop. And you miss some of that with magnets. Again, I'm not dogging magnets. George Steve loves magnets. I belong to the Fly Haters Club, but then I learned how to tune them. And as I always say, adventure with the fly. I will say I've got a handful of fly cars, and I just point one out. this fly car. This has been a tuning project that I've been working on. It runs 5.2s. It's one of the fastest cars that I have on this new layout because it loves the S-turns. It loves the turns. It's fast in the turns, and because of it, this car flies. So it's running 5.1s and 5.2s. Like 5.0 is the lap record, and it's not far off. And it is a stock. Just done some tuning, set up the front end, aluminum wheel fly car. So you can make a fly car go well. Caveman, all non-magnet makes half your cars useless. Try running a Revell Daytona without magnets. It just swings at every light turn. Yeah, Caveman, that's right. There are some cars that it's just magnets are required, and it's okay. Actually, Black Haven, you actually like fly? I do too. I've learned to love them because, I mean, look at that. That car looks fantastic on the track. It looks fantastic, and it's quick. It's a good little car. I mean, it's a fly classic. Great stuff. This is one of my favorite cars. It is the Lancia Beta Monte Carlo, and it's a GB track, which is Fly's cheaper brand, right? This car loves the slot. It stays. It sticks. But I got a problem. The guide broke on it, so I need to repair it. But man, I love that car. So yeah, I've got some great fly cars. Daryl kind of got me hooked on fly. Well, guys, it's 10:30. Man alive, we've been going at this for 2 hours. This has turned into some great conversation. How do you feel about lane gates on switch tracks? I think that lane gates are probably a smart way to go. It protects some of your cars, especially like coming out of. It keeps people from crashing in the lane changers because it basically prevents somebody from changing in a lane based on where the car location is. So if you want to spend the money on them, it's probably a good choice. It does help protect some of your cars from crashes. But George and I have had the conversation when the kids come over. That's what they love about slot cars is the crashes. So, yeah. I modify my Carreras. I take out the rear magnets, upgrade the motor and silicone tires. That is, Eric, that's the kind of tuning you have to do on Carrera. For us, we swap out to silicones and pull the magnets out. And yeah, you can get them running pretty good. Yeah, that's how they be at my track. Hard to keep up. I've learned that borders are necessary as the rear tires fall off the track. Without them, are they worth the expense? Samuel, yes, they're worth the expense. They're painful when you buy them, but then as soon as you put them on, start with outside borders, and you don't have to cover all of your straights. But I will tell you, like, it's good to have a couple of straight borders out of a turn because, like, really fast cars, they'll drift out, and it'll take up to 2 straights to get straightened up. But you will definitely save yourself some deslotting in the turns if you drift pretty good with the borders. So they're expensive. They add up really fast, but if you're smart about it, you can get them over time. A lot of guys make them out of MDF and cut their own and make that work in those turns. But you're you're kind of locking yourself into how your layout's going to be laid out when you start building wooden borders. But yes, borders are important. Start with the outside borders. Inside borders are really more about the look of the track. And it gives, if the car deslots, it gives some room to run off so that the damage to cars is minimized. But yeah, it is a good investment. Fried or baked, air fried. Yep, different strokes for different folks. Michael Squire is a better cartooner, a cartoonist. Nice, I like it. Thanks, Michael. Hey, thanks for being a part of the chat. Appreciate you jumping in. Man, we've had a bunch of comments tonight. 702 comments. Guys, I think it's time to wrap up. Good stuff. I'll just make sure I don't miss anything. I have my NSRs and Slots. Let's see. Steve Sweeney. I just learned Fly makes GB. Yeah, so yeah, it's their less expensive line. Not that, but I mean, fly cars are expensive now. I feel like the collecting piece of them, especially if you want any of like the Can-Am era, the Porsches 917s, the 917Ks, that era. Those are all kind of expensive right now. That's right. Thomas Sanders' question: if a car comes with metal rear wheels, and assuming the wheels are 99% round, is truing the tires necessary? Thomas. So, truing tires, there's a lot of different opinions. If you're running rubber tires, true the tires. Silicone tires, I would have said until a few weeks ago that it wasn't worth the effort to true them, especially if you're putting them on aluminum wheels. But the chat has told me that it is worth the effort truing silicone tires. That there really is an advantage to it. I've not tried it. I don't know if that I have the patience for it, but rubber, yes, truing. I would true rubber tires, mainly because they're pretty easy to true. Urethane, very easy to true. Silicone, it's just a big time investment for silicone. It's a lot of work. So that's kind of my answer. Hopefully that helps. Fly has their fingers in a few pies. Yeah. Yep, I think there's a few brands out there that great live stream. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. The sound of those plastic cars colliding half deaf guy like me, knee buckling, even if the car suffers no damage. Yeah. You can true silicones, but you might have a beard by the time you're done. I know. It takes a long time. Chris, yeah, and you'll be glad you did. I noticed you've done it the right way. You've started, outside turns, and yep, good call. Especially for the tight corners. Yep, start with all your R1s, then move to your 2s, 3s, 4s. Definitely. Plus, it really makes the track look good, I think, with the borders. It makes it pop. And especially if you start doing scenery, you can paint those borders. You can do some things. It's really cool. Hey, Monty. Welcome. We're about to wrap things up. Good night, Chris. Guys, this has been great. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Apologize that I was late, but thanks for tuning in. We never made it to the track. So I'll post some video of running some laps. I'll post some video of a race coordinator, and we'll call it a night. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later. Go have some fun. Slot car racing.